Hey y'all, so today we're going to answer the question, how many board members should you have? Let's get into it. Hey everyone, this is Tiffany with Boss on a Budget. I help new and small nonprofits get up and running. If you need help with your nonprofit, please subscribe to my channel because guess what? I drop a video every single week. So today we're going to talk about the number of board members you should have on your nonprofit board. And so this will be a really quick video because the answer and I feel like this is the answer to all of the questions that I answer, but it depends, right? So let's start with the law, and then again, let's start with strategy and how you should approach it and how you should look at it. So the laws that govern boards of nonprofit organizations really rest with the state that you incorporate in, okay? So one thing you have to remember is that you incorporate your nonprofit as a business or as a non-stock business in a state. And so every state has different laws that govern how you're supposed to run your nonprofit. A lot of people assume because they have a nonprofit and a lot of people go for federal tax exempt status, they assume that the laws are really governed by the IRS or by the federal government. But laws that really govern how you do your bylaws and how many board members and all of that and how you're supposed to run your board really rest with the state. So the first thing I will recommend is you research your state law, which will tell you how many board members you can have, what offices you're supposed to have, how many meetings you're supposed to have. A lot of times they'll say you have to have like at least an annual meeting, or they'll say you have to have a president, a secretary, and a treasurer. And then they may say how many people can hold the same position, how many positions have to be different, and then they will also dictate how many you need to have, okay? So they may have a minimum and they may have a maximum. It just depends. So you really need to do your research and figure out at your state, what are the laws, what's the code and the regulation that regulates nonprofits. A good place to start if you just don't know where to start or if your eyes are glazing over from Google, check in with your nonprofit association. So these are the things that they check in with. These are things that they have resources on, how to set up your nonprofit, how to set up your board. A lot of times your state nonprofit association will have that information available for you. And a lot of times they'll have it for free. You don't have to be a member to do that. A lot of nonprofit associations have startup kits or startup guides, and they even give you examples of articles of incorporation or examples of bylaws. So I would recommend that you start there and ask them, either look on their website or give them a call and just ask them if they have any information about state law and how boards are supposed to be run. The other piece to this is about the strategy of it all. So how many board members should you have as a nonprofit to be effective? And I get this question a lot because people are like, well, how many people should I go for? Because I think a lot of people are worried that they're not going to be able to have enough or be able to recruit as many as they think they may need to have. So I would say, especially for a startup, bare minimum, you need 3 people. And more than likely, as the founder, one of those 3 people will be you. I know at some point you want to transition to be paid staff, but in the very beginning, more than likely it will be 3, including you as the founder. I always recommend people have between 5 and 7, and I use an odd number to account for like ties and to avoid, that kind of conflict. But I always recommend 5 to 7 because you want to have enough people around the table where you have different perspectives, where you have enough people where you can tap into their different networks, and you want to be able to have groupthink, right? You don't want to all be thinking the same way or all have the same perspective. You guys want to promote discussion. You want to promote, that brainstorming where you can have a good strategy for how you're going to be seen, how you're going to develop your nonprofit, how you're going to make money. So all of that stuff matters, and the more people you have at the table to kind of help you strategize helps. But on the other side of that, if you have too many people at the table, if you have too many different perspectives, it can get really messy and out of hand quickly. So that's why I recommend 5 to 7 in the beginning, because that just seems like that's the sweet spot of having enough people at the table and being able to strategize and work effectively as a group. The other thing I wanted to mention was that as a board, you're going to have to break out into different committees. So you'll probably have a fundraising committee, maybe like a program development committee, a finances committee, and you want to have enough people where there are different people on the committees. So that's another thing to consider as well, is making sure you have enough where you can spread the work around so the same people aren't doing the same stuff over and over again. The other thing you should consider in determining the number of people on the board is their term limits. And so sometimes state law will dictate how many terms board members can have and how many consecutive terms or how many times they can serve. So again, look into the laws in your state. But you may want to think about, should I have 1-year terms or 2 or 3-year terms? And that will dictate how many people or how you're going to kind of stagger people to come on your board. If you have some toxic people on the board or people who just kind of won't do any work, but you can't get them to move, you can maybe think about staggering their term limits so that every year there's somebody rolling off so you can get kind of like fresh blood kind of on the board. So that's another thing to think about. And if you have if you don't have enough people on your board, then it's harder to get rid of people, or it's harder to kind of get that fresh blood in because you don't have a lot of people to work with anyway. So that's another thing to consider, is the term limits when you're trying to figure out how many people you should have on your board. So I hope that was helpful. If you need more help recruiting your first board, I have a board recruitment toolbox. The link is in the description box below. If you need any help with starting your nonprofit, visit me at www.bossonabudget.com, and I will see you in the next video.